The Alaska Diaries, 10,000 Days. Episode 2, Part 1. Alaska Bound, a harrowing journey into an uncertain new life. I remember the morning Sylvia and I left Motley clearer than most days in my life. Not because anything unusual happened right away, but because everything that could happen was sitting right there in front of us. 8 months of planning had gone into that moment. 8 months of thinking, figuring, building, saving, and second-guessing. And now there was nothing left to do but turn the key and go. The truck sat low in the yard under the weight of it all. A 1964 Freightliner, frame stretched out, 24 feet of bed behind it, pulling a 20-foot pup trailer. 73,000 pounds, give or take. I knew that number because I'd done the math more than once, and I didn't like surprises when it came to weight. Everything we needed to start over in Alaska was on that truck. Tools, equipment, lumber, supplies, spare parts, chains, fuel. And riding up there with the rest of it, like something with a personality of its own, was the swamp buggy, the one I'd built and we'd come to call the Mean Machine. Glenn Peterson had done the welding on it, and he'd done it right. I trusted that machine. I had to. Sylvia stood off to one side, looking the whole thing over. She didn't say anything at first, just took it in. Then she put her hands on her hips and said, "Well, either we're ready or we're not." I looked at the truck, looked at the trailer, looked at the chains and binders and everything tied down the best way I knew how. Then I looked at her. "We're going," I said. That settled it. The morning was a rush after that. There's always something, always one more thing to tie down, one more check to make, one more doubt that creeps in just as you're about to leave. I went over the load again, and then again. You learn, hauling heavy, that you don't trust anything the first time you look at it. You check your chains, your tires, your hubs, your binders. Then you go back and check the ones that look fine, because those are the ones that get you. Before we pulled out of town, we stopped in at the El Rey to meet Roger Sheekin. Roger had been a big part of getting us this far. He had helped in ways that don't always show up on paper. Advice, time, encouragement when it mattered. He came out and stood there looking at the truck, hands in his pockets, just studying it. Finally, he shook his head. "Norm," he said, "you sure you don't want to make 2 trips?" I smiled at him. "Nope." He gave a short laugh. "Didn't think so. We had dinner together. Nothing fancy, just a good solid meal. But it felt like more than that. Like a send-off." When we stepped back outside, the truck looked even bigger than before. Roger glanced at it again, then back at me. "Well," he said, "you'll either make it or you'll have one hell of a story." I remember thinking, maybe both. We hadn't gone far before the first problem showed itself. The batteries. I could hear it in the way the engine turned over, slow, dragging, not enough life behind it. A man who drives learns to listen to those things. The truck talks to you if you pay attention. Roger noticed it too. "Hold up," he said, pulling alongside. Next thing I knew, he had a chain hooked up and was pulling us to get that engine going. That's how we started our trip to Alaska. Not rolling out proud and clean, but getting pulled into motion. Once we were moving steady, I settled into the rhythm of the road. By the time we reached Wadena, I pulled over and did what I always do, walk the rig. Every tire, every chain, every hub, every sound, every smell. You don't rush that part. Sylvia stayed in the cab while I made my rounds. When I climbed back up, she asked, "Everything all right?" "Looks all right," I said. Couple tires needed air. That was good enough. For the moment. The rain hit us near Detroit Lakes. Not a gentle rain, either. It came down hard enough that the road blurred out ahead of us, and I had to lean forward over the wheel just to keep my line. And right in the middle of that, the heater hose blew. Just like that. Steam, smell, loss of pressure. I knew it right away. I eased the truck over to the shoulder and shut her down. Sylvia leaned out the window, rain blowing in around her. "Well," she asked. I climbed down into the mud and took a look. Could have been worse. I cut the bad section off with my knife, worked the hose back into place, tightened it down again. Hands wet, shirt wet, everything wet, but it held. I climbed back into the cab. "Well," she asked again. I wiped my hands on a rag. "Good enough," I said, and we pulled back onto the road. We didn't make it much farther than the west side of Detroit Lakes that night. No point pushing when you're already tired and the weather's working against you. We pulled over, shut the engine down, and climbed into the sleeper. Rain tapping steady on the roof. The truck ticking as it cooled. Everything we owned sitting out there behind us in the dark. Sylvia settled in beside me. "Feels different now," she said quietly. I knew what she meant. We weren't planning anymore. We were doing it. Morning came gray and damp. We got moving again, heading north and west, the land opening up around us. Flat country, long stretches of road. And then the truck started talking again. Lights flickering. Not steady. Not right. I stopped in the first town we came to and asked around for someone who could take a look. No one. Next town, same thing. And the next. Small places. Limited help. You learn quickly out there that you either fix it yourself or you live with it. So we lived with it. By the time we reached the border, I was already keeping a running list in my head of things that needed attention. The line itself wasn't the problem. It was the waiting. No one there. Just an empty station. We sat and sat. Finally, after about an hour, someone came back. He looked at the truck, took his time walking around it, then came up to my window. "You're headed to Alaska?" "That's right." He nodded. "You got a Caterpillar on that load?" "I do." "You're going to want documentation on that before you leave Canada." I frowned. "For what?" "So you don't pay duty bringing it back into the States." That stopped me. Hadn't thought of that. He pointed behind us. "Go back. Get the paperwork." So I did. Walked back across the border, explained what I needed, got the document, came back again. It took time, but it saved trouble later. And that's how this trip was going to go. One problem at a time. That night, Sylvia cooked supper out in the open in Brandon. Fried steak on the Coleman stove. Wind pushing at the flame. Trucks moving in and out. Noise all around us. She flipped the steak and glanced over. "This is a poor place to camp," she said. I looked around. She wasn't wrong. We slept anyway. Or tried to. And in the morning, the road kept going. And so did we. Part 2. Alaska Bound. 1 for the record books. Saturday, July 7th, 1979. We left Edmonton at 6 in the morning. Early enough that the light was still soft, the roads mostly empty, and the air carried that damp, cool smell that comes after a night of rain. The truck sounded better than it had in days, strong, steady. That transmission repair had cost us more than we could afford, but at least now it felt like we had something we could trust again. At least, that's what I told myself. Sylvia handed me a cup of coffee as we rolled out. "Feels different," she said. "It does," I admitted. We were moving again. That counted for something. The country began to change as we pushed west. The land lifted. The road started to roll. Not mountains yet, but getting there. Long grades. Wide curves. The kind of road that makes you pay attention. We saw wildlife that morning. 2 deer off to the side of the road, still as fence posts, watching us pass. Later, 2 black bears, big ones, feeding along the ditch like it was the most natural thing in the world. Sylvia leaned forward, eyes wide. "They're not afraid of anything, are they?" "No," I said. "Out here, they don't have to be." By the time we neared McBride, the road had turned serious. Long climbs, longer descents. And that's when I started watching the gauges more closely. The engine in that truck, a Cummins 250, had its limits. 1,800 to 2,200 RPMs, that's where it belonged. Push it much past that, and you were asking for trouble. We came up over a rise, and I saw the hill. It dropped away in front of us, long, steep, and winding down toward the river at Prince George. At the bottom of it, I knew was a crossing. Railroad bridge. Narrow. No room for mistakes. I eased off the throttle and let the truck start down. Right away, I could feel it. That weight behind us. 73,000 pounds pushing forward. The RPMs started to climb. I shifted up a gear. That's how you handle it. Use the transmission to hold the engine back. But every time I shifted, we picked up speed. The wind kicked up as we descended. Hard crosswind. I saw one of the mud flaps start to whip harder and harder until suddenly, whap, whap, whap. Then something changed, subtle at first, but I felt it. The brakes. I pressed the pedal again. Less there than before. I glanced at the air pressure. Something wasn't right. That flapping mud flap had knocked loose a valve on the air tank. I didn't know it yet, but we were losing braking power. Fast. The truck surged forward. Faster. Heavier. I shifted again and again, trying to keep the engine from over-revving, trying to hold it back. But the speed kept building. Sylvia looked over at me. What's happening? I didn't answer right away. Didn't want to say it until I was sure. Then I pressed the brakes again. And this time, there was almost nothing there. We're losing brakes, I said. She didn't panic. Didn't scream. Just looked straight ahead. How bad? I watched the road. Watched the speed. Felt the weight. Bad enough, I said. The engine was climbing now, 20 to 124, higher. I shifted again, trying to save it. Each shift bought me a second, but cost me speed. We were moving too fast now. Far too fast for a loaded rig on a downhill like that. At the bottom of the hill, I could see it coming. The turn. Sharp. Tight. And beyond it, the bridge. A railroad bridge. Tracks in the middle. Narrow lanes on either side. Barely wide enough for a vehicle. And we were coming at it too fast. I made the decision then. The only one I could. Sylvia, I said, steady as I could manage. You better jump. She turned to me and shook her head. No. You've got time, I said. I can slow it some. I said no. She reached over and put her hand on the seat between us. I'm riding it down with you. There wasn't time to argue. And truth be told, I was glad she didn't go. So I nodded once and went back to the road. The engine screamed. 2600, 28. I was pushing it past everything it was built for, expecting it to blow at any second. The truck shuddered. The trailer behind us started to sway. I lined up for the turn. There was no room for hesitation. We hit it fast. Too fast. The whole rig leaned, hard, like it might roll right over and take us with it. For a split second, all I could see was river. Down below. Waiting. Hold on, I said. And then we were through the turn. The bridge was right there. 9 feet of road. Steel rails. No margin. I locked in on it. Hands tight on the wheel. Everything narrowed down to that one line. Come on, I muttered. Come on. The truck hit the bridge. The trailer snapped behind us like a whip. Bang. I felt it before I heard it. 2 tires, right side of the trailer, blown clean out. But we were still moving. Still too fast. I held it straight. Didn't touch the brakes. They were useless anyway. Didn't overcorrect. Just held the line. Inches on either side. I could feel it. Every inch. And then, we were across. Still rolling. Still fast. Ahead, there was a dirt road. I took it. No hesitation. Let the truck run out at speed. Let the ground slow us down. We rolled a long way before it finally gave up. Before the weight stopped pushing. Before everything went still. Silence. I sat there, hands on the wheel. Didn't move. Didn't speak. Then I looked over at Sylvia. She was sitting just like she had been. Calm. Quiet. Alive. Well, I said after a minute, I think we made it. She let out a breath. I think we did. We both sat there while longer, just letting it settle. Finally, I said, I think maybe we ought to dig out that bottle of whiskey. She nodded. I think that's a good idea. We hadn't had a drink in a week. Didn't seem like much of a rule anymore. I climbed down, found the bottle in the grub barrel, and brought it back up. We each took a pull. No toast. Didn't need one. That was enough. We stayed right there in Prince George that night. Didn't go any farther. Didn't need to. Because once you come that close to losing everything, you don't just keep driving like nothing happened. You sit, you breathe, and you thank God you're still there. Part 3. Alaska Bound. The Long Road North. Sunday, July 8th, 1979. We didn't rush out of Prince George. Not after the day before. I woke up early, same as always, but I didn't move right away. Just lay there in the cab, listening. No wind. No traffic close by. Just the quiet ticking of the truck cooling from the night before. After that hill outside Prince George, after that bridge, a man doesn't jump up eager to get back on the road. Not right away. Sylvia stirred beside me. You awake? She asked. Yeah. A pause. Then she said, You still thinking about it? I didn't answer right away. Didn't need to. Yeah, I said finally. We both were. But the road doesn't wait for you to feel ready. So we got up and got to work. I figured I could at least get us into town and see about those blown tires. The truck started strong, better than it had before Whitehorse, and that gave me a little confidence back. Not much, but enough. We eased into Prince George proper and found a place where I could work. I got the tires off, replaced what I could, started checking things over more closely. And that's when I saw it. The frame on the fifth wheel of the pup trailer cracked loose. It must have happened coming through that turn onto the bridge, the whole trailer whipping behind us under that load. I stood there looking at it for a long moment. Sylvia came around the side of the truck. "What is it?" I pointed. "That." She looked at it, then back at me. "That bad. We're not going any farther with it like that," I said. And that settled it. We made the decision right there. Unload what we needed, secure what we could, and leave the pup trailer behind. That wasn't easy. Everything on that rig had a purpose. But a broken trailer out on the Cassiar, that's how you end up losing everything. We found a place willing to let us park it. Told them we'd be back. Week or so, I said. Truth was, I didn't know how long it would take. We rearranged the load as best we could, shifted weight, tightened chains, made do. You learn to adapt fast on a trip like that. By the time we finally pulled out again, it felt strange. Shorter, lighter behind us, but not lighter in the mind. We made it as far as Houston Campground that day. Didn't push it, didn't need to. That night, I checked everything again. Every tire, every chain, every fitting I could get my hands on. Sylvia handed me a plate of food when I finished. "Still in one piece," she said. "For now," I told her. We ate in the quiet, and for the first time in a while, it felt almost normal. Monday, July 9th, 1979. Up early again. 4, maybe 5 in the morning. That had become routine. I serviced the truck while Sylvia made breakfast. Coffee first. Always coffee. We fueled up at Hazelton and turned on a Highway 37, the Cassiar. That road hadn't changed. Still rough. Still narrow. Still belonged to the logging trucks. Only difference now, I was driving it with July 7th still fresh in my mind. I kept my speed down. Watched every grade. Every curve. Every sound the truck made. Sylvia looked ahead, then over at me. "You're driving different," she said. "Am I?" "Yes." I nodded. "Probably." She didn't say anything else. Didn't need to. We both knew why. That road carries its own kind of danger. Logging trucks come fast, and they don't always move over. You learn to read the road and expect the unexpected. 2 years earlier, we'd been run off into the ditch by one that wouldn't yield. That memory was still there too. So this time, I held my line. Careful, steady, ready. We reached the Alaskan Highway around mid-afternoon. Pulled in near mile 747. Ed Dalhan was there, same as I remembered. He came out smiling when he saw us. "Well, I'll be," he said. "You made it this far." "Just about didn't," I told him. He laughed. "Looks like you've been having yourself a trip." That's one way to put it. We stayed the night there. Good people. Good place to stop. It was the first time in days I felt like we weren't just pushing forward. We were actually arriving somewhere. Wednesday, July 11th, 1979. We had another flat just outside Whitehorse. By then, it almost felt routine. I was working on it when I noticed a young fellow at the station filling tires. Only thing was, he was sitting right on top of one while it aired up. I walked over. "You might not want to do that," I said. He looked at me, shrugged. "We all gotta go sometime." I studied him for a second. "Young. 18, maybe 19. "Yeah," I said, "but no sense rushing it." He grinned. Went right back to what he was doing. Some things you just can't teach. We went on into Whitehorse and pulled into the way station. And right there on the scale, the truck died. Just like that. I sat for a second, then sighed. Well, here we go again. Swap batteries. Check connections. Tried everything I could think of. Nothing. Other trucks were lining up behind us. Watching. Waiting. That's when the scale man came out. Older fellow. Calm. He took one look at the truck and said, 1964 Freightliner? That's right. He nodded. Drove one for 10 years. That got my attention. There's a parallel switch on that truck, he said. That's your problem. I frowned. You sure? He smiled. Take it off. Bring it inside. So I did. 19 wires. Every one of them had to go back exactly right. Inside his office, he spread out a newspaper. Take it apart here. We opened it up, and there it was. 2 copper contacts. Burned. Worn down. Electricity's been arson between those, he said. I filed them smooth. Got them fitting again. Put it back together. Hooked everything back up outside. Turned the key. Nothing. I stood there thinking, running it back in my mind. Then I swapped 2 wires, the only 2 I wasn't sure about. Climbed back in. Turned the key again. The engine fired strong. Cleaner than it had in days. Sylvia smiled. That's better. It is, I said. I went back and thanked that man. Shook his hand. Just pass it along someday, he said. I will, I told him. And we rolled out of Whitehorse with something we hadn't had in a while. A little confidence. Later that day, about 80 miles out, Sylvia said, I need a bath. We found a creek. Pulled off near a gravel pit. She headed down to the water while I started my routine. Checking tires. Walking the rig. Listening. And there was again. Another flat. I was halfway through fixing it when a motorhome pulled in behind us. Boat trailer hanging crooked off the back. The tongue was broken clean through. They'd cut down a small tree and tied it in place just to limp off the road. The man climbed out, frustrated. This was supposed to be a fishing trip, he said. I nodded toward the truck. Pull up alongside, I told him. I've got a welder. He hesitated. What do you charge? Nothing, I said. Let's just fix it. So we did. The metal was rusted bad. Probably been near salt water at some point. Didn't want to take a weld. I cut some steel from my own supply. Heated it. Bent it. Worked it into place. Took time, but we got it solid. When it was done, he looked at it, then at me. I don't know how to thank you, he said. I nodded toward the motorhome. You got a shower in there. He laughed. You bet. That was payment enough. Hot water. A clean shirt. A cold beer after. Sylvia came up from the creek just as I stepped out. Hair damp. Wrapped in a towel. She looked at me, then at the motorhome. You had a hot shower, didn't you? I smiled. Maybe. She shook her head, laughing. I just took mine in glacier water. We both knew who got the better deal. That night, the road felt a little less heavy. Not because it had gotten easier, but because every once in a while, you meet people who remind you why you keep going. In a part 3. Part 4. Alaska Bound. Arriving with Purpose. Thursday, July 12th, 1979. We crossed into Alaska in the rain. It wasn't a grand moment. No clear sky. No big view waiting for us. Just low clouds, wet road, and a quiet crossing where a man could pass from one place into another without much ceremony at all. Still, I knew it. I felt it. We're in Alaska, I said. Sylvia looked out the window, scanning the trees, the road, the gray sky. Doesn't look much different, she said. Give it time. We pushed on through talk and stopped there for a while, long enough to rest, long enough to gather ourselves again. Didn't leave until around 2 in the morning. That's how it goes up there. You drive when you can. Sleep when you have to. Friday, July 13th, 1979. We drove 4 hours. Slept 3. Then drove again. That stretch of road into the interior, it wears on you. Not because it's dramatic, but because it just keeps going. We reached Eureka and pulled in. And for the first time since leaving Minnesota, we weren't just passing through. This was one of the places we had come for. I climbed down out of the cab and stood there a moment, looking around. Mountains in the distance. Low brush. Open ground. Air that felt different. Cleaner. Colder. Well, I said, this is it. Sylvia stepped down beside me. This is Alaska, she said. We didn't celebrate. Didn't need to. Just stood there and took it in. Then we got to work. The swamp buggy had to come off. That was the first order of business. Now, that machine wasn't small. And getting it down off a loaded truck, you don't do that casually. I checked the ramps. Checked the ground. Checked everything twice. Sylvia stood off to the side. You sure about this? She asked. No, I said, but we're doing it anyway. I climbed up, got the engine going, and eased the buggy back. Slow. Steady. The weight shifted as it came down the ramps. The truck lifted slightly as the load moved. For a second, everything felt like it might go the wrong direction. Easy, I muttered. The tracks hit the ground. Held. And just like that, we had it down. Sylvia let out a breath. I don't think I like watching that, she said. I don't much like doing it, I told her. We unloaded lumber next. Stacked it. Covered it. Left what we didn't need, right there in Eureka. By the time we finished, it felt like we were setting down roots. Temporary ones, maybe, but roots all the same. We decided to stay the night. We ate a couple meals at the lodge, hot food, a break from cooking, and Sylvia handled the rest back at camp. That balance worked for us. Saturday, July 14th, 1979. We spent the day getting organized, talking to people, learning what we could. 2 miners came through, heading back into the Talkeetna Mountains about 15 miles west. Rough country, the kind that doesn't forgive mistakes. I talked with them a while. What's it like back in there? I asked. One of them shrugged. Depends what you're made of. Fair answer. We met another fellow who worked the landfill. Knew the area. Had opinions on everything. Most of them worth listening to. I tried calling around, trying to reach JW. No luck. So we made a decision. We'd head back toward Talk. Not to leave Alaska, but to go back for that pup trailer we'd left behind in Prince George. You don't leave equipment behind if you can help it. We loaded up and got moving again. Somewhere past Glen Allen. We lost a wheel. Didn't feel it right away. Didn't hear it. Just gone. I slowed down, pulled over and walked back. Nothing. We turned around. Drove back slow, scanning the brush, watching both sides of the road. Never found it. That's not good, Sylvia said. No, I agreed. It's not. But there wasn't anything to be done about it. So we turned again and kept going. That's something you learn out there. You don't get everything back. We reached Talk late that night. Around 10. Stopped at a lodge. Had a real meal. Sat down like human beings for a change. Then we rested. Rain came in again while we slept. Soft at first, then steady. Sunday, July 15th, 1979. We were up by 6. Back on the road. We stopped in Whitehorse again. Fuel, tires, checking things over. I had them put together a wheel and tire to replace what we'd lost. That truck carried its own fuel. 300 gallons behind the cab. Another 60 under it. That gave us range. Out there, range matters. We pushed on a Teslin Lake. Got around 8:30 in the evening. Camp right there. The light hangs longer up there. Even late, it doesn't feel like night the way it does back home. Sylvia stood by the water for a while. Quiet. It's beautiful, she said. It is. And for once, nothing was broken. Nothing was failing. Nothing needed fixing right that second. That doesn't happen often on a trip like this. Monday, July 16th, 1979. Up early again. We stopped at Cassiar Junction. Sylvia cooked bacon and eggs. Real breakfast. The Cassiar road hadn't gotten any easier. If anything, it felt rougher than before. Where trucks ran hard. Fast. Young drivers. Too fast if you asked me. We saw a yearling moose. Then horses along the road. Not wild, belonging to people living out there. A little farther on, we saw 2 boys herding them back toward the village. Then 2 men walking, carrying meat. That's a different life. Not easier, just different. We stopped near a lake. Name wasn't easy to pronounce. Didn't matter. We were tired. And that was enough reason to stop. Tuesday, July 17th, 1979. I was doing my usual, checking the truck, tires, everything, before we pulled out. And then I saw something in the mirror. At first, it didn't make sense. Something lying in the road behind us. I hit the brakes and got out. Ran around the back. Mike's box, or what was left of it. The base was still bolted down, but the rest of it, gone. I felt a jolt run straight through me. Mike! I looked up, and there he was, standing on the truck bed, shaking, eyes wide, but alive. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Sylvia came around behind me. Oh, thank God. He must have ridden out when the box came apart. Held his footing. Didn't jump. Didn't fall. Tough dog. I climbed up and knelt beside him. It's all right, I said, rubbing his neck. You're all right. He leaned into me, still shaking. We put in the cab after that, at least for a while. He didn't argue. And for the rest of that day, I checked everything twice. Because that's the thing about a trip like this. The moment you think you've got it under control, it reminds you that you don't. We camped that night near the Yellowhead Highway. Serviced the truck again. Tightened everything that could be tightened. And kept going. Into part 4. Part 5. Alaska bound. Backtracking to Prince George. July 21st to 22nd, 1979. The road takes its due. By July 21st, I had learned something about that road. It didn't take from you all at once. It took things little by little. We left early, earlier than the logging trucks. That was the rule on that stretch. You didn't want to meet them head on if you could help it. Big rigs, moving fast, drivers that knew every inch of that road and didn't expect anyone else to be on it. So we beat the sun up, fog hanging low in the trees, the kind of quiet that makes you listen a little harder. It didn't take long before the road started collecting its toll. We had a flat, not unusual anymore. I pulled over, set the blocks, went through the routine. By then I could do it without thinking. Hands working, mind somewhere else entirely. But when I climbed back up into the cab, something didn't feel right. I looked back along the load. Something was missing. I climbed down again, walked the length of the truck slowly. Chain loose. Binder gone. A length of steel gone. That bar Ed Teslick had made for me gone. Drive shaft tubing for the swamp buggy gone. Even part of the chain. I stood there in the road, looking back the way we'd come. All that work to tie it down. All that checking. And still, the road had reached up and taken what it wanted. Sylvia leaned out the window. "What is it?" "We're lighter," I said. She didn't laugh. There wasn't much we could do. You don't go hunting parts on a road like that. Not with logging trucks coming and going. Not with miles already behind you. So we tightened what was left, checked it again, and kept going. A little farther on, we passed a black bear, dead on the side of the road. A patch of fur missing where it had been struck. It looked wrong somehow, out of place. Not long after that, I hit a spruce hen. Came right out in front of the truck. There was no way to miss it. I felt it under the wheels. "Nothing you could do," Sylvia said quietly. I nodded, but I didn't answer. We saw rabbits after that. Small things moving quick along the edge of the road. Alive. Careful. Smarter than the hen had been. We camped that night in what they called a burn. Old forest, blackened and cleared out by fire years before. New growth coming in low and green, but the skeletons of the old trees still standing. It was quiet there. Too quiet. That night, the wind moved through those dead trees and made a sound I hadn't heard before. Like something whispering. July 22nd, 1979. The climb and the warning. We were up early again. Always early. That was the only way to stay ahead of trouble. Get moving before the world did. I pumped up one of the tires. Then another. Then a man came over. A tourist from Switzerland, he said. Traveling through, seeing the country. He had a low tire too. So I aired his up. He smiled, thanked me. "Beautiful country," he said. I looked out at the road, at the hills. "It is," I said, but I don't think he saw the same country we did. We passed 5 bicyclists later that morning. 5. On that road. Climbing a long hill. Slow, steady, heads down. I watched them in the mirror as we pulled away. There's a kind of toughness in that. Different than ours, but just as real. The rain came and went. We changed another tire between showers. By then, it felt like part of the routine. Rain, stop, fix, move. Rain, stop, fix, move. And then we came to Stikine Hill. I had heard about it. Everyone had. Steep, long, the kind of grade that doesn't forgive mistakes. I eased the truck down in a low gear before we even started. "You ready?" I asked Sylvia. She nodded. "I'm ready." We started down. Slow, careful. The engine holding us back, doing the work the brakes shouldn't have to. I kept it steady. Didn't rush it. Didn't push it. And we made it to the bottom clean. But that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was the climb on the other side. We crossed the river and started up. Low gear again. Engine working hard. The stack pouring smoke. Slow. Real slow. About halfway up I saw it. A motorhome. Pulled off on our side of the road. Not just pulled off. Stopped. People outside. Taking pictures. I felt something tighten in my chest. "Come on," I muttered. That road wasn't wide. Not wide enough for mistakes. And definitely not wide enough for someone to park where they pleased. I had nowhere to go but around them, which meant crossing over. Into the oncoming lane. On a climb. Where I couldn't see far ahead. Where in her truck could come down at any time. Sylvia saw it too. "They shouldn't be there," she said. "No," I said. "They shouldn't." I eased the truck over. Careful. Watching the road ahead. Listening for anything. Nothing. No sound. No engine. I went around them. Slow. Steady. As I passed, I looked over. The man at the wheel just sat there. Like he didn't understand what he'd done. I shook my fist at him. Didn't say a word. Didn't have to. We cleared them. Got back into our lane. And kept climbing. When we reached the top, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "If there had been a truck coming," Sylvia said. I nodded. We'd have all gone over. Neither of us spoke for a while after that. Later that day, small kindnesses. Farther up the road, things settled down again. The danger never left, but stepped back a little. We saw another bear. Alive this time. Feeding along the roadside, slow and easy. We pulled into a campsite not long after. A few other travelers there. One family in particular had followed us for a while. We introduced ourselves. They were immigrants working up north. He had a job at a mine. $11 an hour, he said. Sounded proud of it. We talked for a while. Shared stories. Road stories mostly. Everyone had them. That's something about that road. Strangers don't stay strangers long. That night, we slept easier. Not because the road was safer, but because we weren't alone. July 23rd, 1979. Wear and tear. By the next morning, I was up at 5 again. Servicing the truck. Always servicing the truck. Sylvia had breakfast going while I worked. Coffee first, then food, then back to work. That's when I saw it. The wood buffer between the frame and the bed. Worked loose. That wasn't small. That wasn't something you ignore. It took me 2 hours to get that frame lifted, lined up, and bolted back into place. Sweat grease time. Sylvia came over at one point. You about done? Getting there, I said. I wasn't. Not really. But you say it anyway. We finally got moving again around 8. Drove hard all day. One wheel kept coming loose. Over and over. I'd stop. Tighten it. Drive. Stop again. That's the kind of thing that wears on you. Not one big problem. Just the same one. Again. And again. About 80 miles out of Whitehorse. A couple waved us down. From Staples, Minnesota. Home wasn't that far away, suddenly. We talked a while. Had a tire fixed. Shared a little bit of the road with them. Then we moved on. Earlier that same day, we'd had a close call. A semi came around a curve too wide, cutting into our lane. I saw it coming. Nowhere to go. At the last second, he pulled back over. Missed our front wheel by inches. This Freightliner. Flat front. No nose. Nothing between you and whatever's coming. I remember thinking, if that had gone wrong, we'd have been first to know it. Nightfall, Whitehorse again. We made it in a Whitehorse by evening. Tired. Worn down. Got a tire fixed. Fueled up. Talked to the folks there. They told us about a mining operation, big gold strike. Everyone talking about it. That kind of news travels fast up there. Faster than anything else. We camped that night. Same routine. Same rhythm. But something had changed. We weren't just heading north anymore. We were surviving the road. And the road wasn't done with us yet. In a part 5. Part 6. Alaska bound. Not without challenges. July 24th, 1979, Whitehorse and the sound of trouble. We woke up late that morning. Later than usual, anyway. The kind of sleep that comes when your body finally decides it's going to take what it needs, whether you've got plans or not. We drove into Whitehorse to take care of things. Laundry, groceries, fuel, the ordinary work that keeps a trip like this moving. While Sylvia went in for supplies, I stayed with the truck. That's when a man pulled up alongside me, rolled his window down. Mind if I sit a minute? He asked. Go ahead, I said. His name was Don, a silversmith. Worked gold in the summers up in Alaska, dredging rivers, then went back south and worked silver through the winter. Hands like a man who knew his tools. I was like someone who'd seen a lot of country. We talked a while. About the road. About Alaska. About the kind of work waiting up there. You heading in for gold? He asked. In a manner of speaking, I said. He smiled at that. Best kind of answer there is. Later, we saw the Swiss fellow again, the one I'd aired up a tire for, and the Minnesota folks. People crossing paths again like the road was folding in on itself. But the moment that stayed with me didn't happen in town. It happened at the way station. We pulled on a scale, and the man there, Harvey, came out of the office. Same fellow who'd helped me before with that electrical switch. Old truck driver. Knew these machines inside and out. He stood there listening. Didn't say anything at first. Just listened to the engine. Then he looked at me. Your truck doesn't sound right. That's settled and heavy. Because I knew it didn't. What do you think? I asked. He nodded toward town. You go back. Get yourself a case of straight 30-weight oil. Put a quart into every 60 gallons of diesel you burn. I frowned. That'll help it. He looked at me steady. It'll help it make it. That was all he said. So he turned around, went back into town, bought the oil, and started mixing it into the fuel, just like he told me. We didn't argue, didn't question it. When a man like that tells you something on a road like this, you listen. July 25th, 1979, one more obstacle. We were up at 4 again. Always early, always trying to stay ahead of the next problem. But this time, the problem was already there. The truck wouldn't run right. Fuel filter plugged again. I climbed down, hands already knowing what to do. Pulled apart, cleaned what I could, got it running enough to move. We limped into talk that evening. 7 o'clock. Long day. Longer than most. Don caught up with us there. We had coffee together. Talked a little more. Funny how people come and go on a trip like this. Some stay in your memory longer than others. He was one of them. July 26th, 1979, back into Alaska. It was raining when we started out. Soft at first, then steady. The truck felt tired. That's the only way I can say it. Not broken, not failing, just worn. Like the rest of us. I drove it easy, didn't push, didn't ask more than it could give. And by the time we reached Eureka, I knew we were going to stop. We set up the tent again. Same routine, same ground, different feeling. We weren't passing through anymore. We were arriving. July 27th, 1979, the work begins again. We met folks almost right away. That's how it is up there. You don't stay strangers long. Tom and Betty, good people, curious about the swamp buggy, wanted to see how it worked, what it could do. I tried to start the Caterpillar. Had trouble with the starter motor carburetor. So I pulled it apart, cleaned it, put it back together. That's how most days went. Something needed fixing. Something needed checking. But that day, I finally got through to my brother. We talked, made plans. It felt like things were starting to come together. July 28th, 1979, a different view. Rusty Miller came by that day. Friendly sort. Knew the country. Before long, we were in the air. Helicopter lifting us up over the Talkeetna Mountains. Sylvia loved that. I could see it on her face. From up there, everything looked different. The rivers winding through the land. Old mine workings cut into the hills. Caribou moving slow across the ground below. Quiet, open, endless. I remember thinking, this is what we came for. July 29th to 30th, 1979, waiting and wearing down. The rain came back, off and on, mostly on. The tent leaked. Not badly, but enough. Sylvia wasn't happy about that. Water's coming in again, she said one night. I'll fix it, I told her. I tried, but there's only so much you can do with canvas and weather like that. We waited those days. For my brother. For the next step. For things to settle. Sometimes waiting is harder than moving. July 31st, 1979. The small things that matter. By the end of the month, we were doing the small jobs. The necessary ones. I cleaned the generator on the Coleman stove. Adjusted the swamp buggy tires. Let some air out so they'd handle better off-road. Sylvia bailed water from the tent again. Didn't say much about it this time. Just did it. And Mike had gotten into a fight somewhere along the way. Cut on his lip. Nothing too bad, but enough to worry us. He still guarded us, though. Same as always. Nobody came near that truck, near our camp, without Mike letting us know. I looked at him that evening, sitting there, watching. You've done your job, I said quietly. He thumped his tail. And that was enough. Closing reflection, the road behind us. When I think back on that trip, it isn't just one moment that stands out. Not just the hill outside Prince George. Not just the breakdowns. Not just the close calls. It's all of it. Together. The way the road kept asking. And asking. And asking. And somehow, we kept answering. We didn't do it perfectly. Didn't do it easy. But we did it. We made it north. And everything waiting for us in Alaska. All the work. All the days ahead. All the years to come. It started right there. On that road. With a tired truck. A strong woman beside me. A good dog watching our back. And just enough stubbornness to keep going. End of episode 2.